Hi, Christian. Hey, David.
Hello. Nice to see you guys. So there's supposedly some confusion about people joining. So Udo is still on the way, and I guess we will have some other people join as well. So I'll take the time to go to the toilet, and I guess when I come back, we'll all be here.
Yeah, I think so.
Right.
I'm meeting David. I'm meeting you and Christian for the first time, but Tim did a very quick introduction. I'm interested to hear what you guys are working on, or a little bit more about your projects, and make sure that I'm talking to it as I'm going through what I'm working on. So, Christian, I think you're the only one here on the mic right now. What are you working
on? I also would want to hear what you're working on, but I'm working on a project that Theo is also working on. It's to be rather brief. It's like a economic grammar that broadly construed to be able to construct arbitrary governance structures and economic relationships in Rholang.
Greetings, everybody. We're all still piling in and trying to get a feel for the room and what brought everybody here today. I think we'll give it a few more minutes.
Pomyśl sobie teraz przy tak zgadać.
Anyone here in Berlin?
David.
All right.
Too many mics are on. I don't think anybody heard you.
Hi, guys.
Hello, hello. Okay, we have shitloads of people on. All right. So I guess we can start right now because we are already a large number of people.
Yeah.
Somebody's using speakers. Okay. So we had a collection of topics from last time. I'll open the link in our shared document, and I'm also going to put the link for those who don't have it yet in the chat. Here we go. Yeah, that's the kind of transcript from last time. Feel free to take a quick look. It should be pretty self-explanatory, and the agenda, we kind of want to, we want to get a grip into what happened at Joshi's session. For instance, I wasn't there, so I think it's valuable. Who was at Joshi's session like right before this call? 1, 2, I guess, okay.
Nearly half the people.
Okay, good. So can somebody give like a 1-minute summary of what happened?
I don't have permission to view the document.
Okay, I'll make it more. I'll make it public. Give me a moment.
Yeah, so the session from Joshi, I think was really interesting. It was about pattern matching, but not just simple pattern message, but also matching patterns like sending.
Well, we should not forget Fear's introduction for his forwarder solution. So the car example.
Oh yes,
that was really great, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. David, you're muted.
My bad. So I've set the link to public. Whoever didn't have access rights can try again. And it seems like I missed a lot of Joshi's session, but yeah, I was rendering a video, so couldn't come in. Ah, Joshi, welcome.
Yeah, hey, thanks.
Good stuff. Yeah, I heard about your session, so, well, I'll definitely watch the recording. What we want to do at the beginning here is kind of establish what we'll be talking about in the next hour. I have shared in the chat document from last week. And there we have kind of laid out in front of us what we actually talked about. So we talked about specifications and how this relates to the name registry, because that's kind of an open topic in the Archon ecosystem, to my understanding. And we also talked a lot about make mint and the wallet contracts and the purse issues. So it's a complex topic, and we have not reached any kind of clear consensus. And what I personally would like to come out of this is not just insights, but some sort of clarity in which way we need to move in order to kind of develop some sort of practical solution that allows us to just spend revs or rocks, or revs actually in this case. And yeah, that's kind of my proposal for tonight, for today. So who else is interested in what kind of topics? I'd just like to collect those. Anything goes.
Well, the piece that I've been working on is about how to make new kinds of tokens, non-rev, non-rock, and you know, add them to the registry and pass them around in purses. So I can speak to just the mechanics of new tokens.
Okay. Just to clarify, have you done any kind of work in that direction? Something that is kind of the foundation where you could actually build colored coins on top of, or is this kind of still theoretical deliberations? I just want to understand better what stage we're in.
I was going to show you guys. I was going to show you the code. I was going to show you the Rholang contracts for it and run the integration test.
Sounds cool.
There's last time we sort of talked about the exploits. I don't know if it's really worthwhile going through that, but that's an option if anyone wants to.
Well, the exploit topic was quite, well, there was interest in just doing that. I'm not sure if it's the best thing right now. We'll kind of have to see what the community wants to do.
Yeah, and also have to go into that in a separate session as well. The point I do think would be interesting is to talk about what, as close to what might be framed at fundamental level is a token. And this becomes much more of an important question when you're looking at a system like Rholang than other, you know, Bitcoin, Ethereum type things. And related to the work that Christian and I are doing, but it doesn't have to be coding, it could just be a simple discussion.
Rinke, anything from your side? Anything you'd like to pursue specifically?
I don't know, but maybe we can just put it for another time. But I would personally also be very interested in actually seeing how you can build a web page in your browser and reading from whatever is happening on the node. I don't know if it's already possible.
Yes and no. Because if you have your node and you put WebGRPC on top of it, you can read some data from your node, but it will kills you because it's so slow that it's bad idea. It's better to have some application that read things from AirNode, cache it, and expose to the web. It's works just better. Maybe it will change, but for now, it's how it is. I tried, and it was too slow.
Yeah, what you just described is with WebGRPC, and I haven't tried that, but I totally believe you. That seems like what must happen. the infrastructure we've been using so far for dApps connecting front ends is to have this middle layer that we wrote called Archain API, and basically it runs as a Node.js server that communicates with the node over gRPC and then communicates with the browser over HTTP. And it gives you some flexibility. So if you want to make this like as user-friendly as possible, you run that middleware just on some centralized server so people can interact just like a normal web page. Or if you want a little more security and you don't want to trust that third-party relay, you can run that on your same local host that you're using the web browser on. And then there's no middleman, but it works at a reasonable speed that way.
One thing I wanted to, we're not recording right now. Oh, we are recording. Oh, my bad. Sorry, I just saw the logo. Mateusz?
So it's basically what is in the Ethereum. You have MetaMask. MetaMask use some farm of the nodes that you don't have any control of them, so you must trust them. But you can run your own node. So here is the same problem. You can have, you can trust somebody, for example, I don't know, me, or not.
Is there an Infura equivalent that's planning to supply validators for Archain? Or are like the cooperatives going to be doing that?
I don't know.
Co-op and Pyrofex are both planning to run some nodes. And then yesterday here in San Francisco, I was talking to people from Pocket Network. I had not heard of them before. I don't know if you guys have. They serve the Ethereum community as basically being a decentralized Infura. So anyone can contribute a node into their pool of nodes, or you can basically use their library to call up it as if you're calling up a node, and they'll just give you a node that's nearby some node operator who's then incentivized to run a node properly by earning Pocket token, and they're interested in supporting Archain as well, but that's not existing right now.
So the Arsign, I think, was a topic that came up last week. Is Dan going to be here, or someone provided sort of an overview of the state of Arsign and where it's planning to develop towards?
Dan has told me he's not going to be here. I didn't understand the rest of your question. Oh, not because it didn't make sense, just because of noise and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Just wondering if there's someone who can give us an update on the state of the development and what it's.
Yeah, I mean, I can try that if no one else feels like they are better qualified to do it. Has anyone, Chris? I don't know if you've dug into that with Dan lately.
Not lately.
Okay. All right. Cool. So yeah, I mean, Arsign is at a state where it works pretty decently. I think Dan is definitely not comfortable throwing it out there, saying like, use this to store your funds in or anything like that. And then my attitude, based on a meeting that the co-op marketing team had, was that we should pursue both Arsign and MetaMask, because there's an issue that Chris, you and I have both participated in on Arsign, and we're basically debating like, should Arsign connect directly to a node in the same way that MetaMask does, or should it just be for client-side signing, and then it's the dApp developer's problem to communicate with a node somehow? And so I think a good solution to that might be, let's keep Arsign narrow. Let's make Arsign just for signing. That's a cool tool that's useful for a lot of dApps. And then let's also use MetaMask and get Archain integration there. And MetaMask is the one that can communicate with the node, just like it always has in the Ethereum world. So I just want to propose that, or throw it out there for discussion.
All right. So we've come up with the concept of a schedule. So we kind of have some sort of cycle for this entire call. So we have a few topics collected. What do we want to talk about in more depth in the next 20 to 30 minutes? I mean, we have more insights into Arsign. If what we already have isn't enough for the people in the call, we could get into the exploits as well, or see if we want to do that in a separate call. We have the quite interesting integration topic, how we can integrate a node with actually being able to display any information in the browser. And then we have the token contract topic. So I think that's something that we should vote upon right now. I have no idea how to do a proper vote in a remote setting like this. I could do it with hands and stuff like that. But yeah, I guess we can do it like that. So I start with the Arsign topic. personally. Who is interested in learning more about that, and is there any need actually? I'd like to learn about it for sure, but I'm not sure if it's enough to fill for the next 30 minutes. So I'd say I'm going to pass on this.
And to be clear, are we selecting a couple of topics from the list, or is there going to be one that fills up the remainder of the 43 minutes?
Well, the thing is, we could select 2 topics and spend 20 minutes on each of those. That's what we could do. If we forego some sort of open discussion, or we just select one that we do in depth, then we at some point just cut off the discussion, commit to the document, whatever we have come up with, and then go to an open discussion where we can talk about the remainder of the topics that we haven't touched upon.
No preference for me.
Okay, anybody?
I prefer the token one and the wallet discussion just because I'm prepared to demonstrate code and say, hey, if you guys want to implement your own wallets, here's some starter boilerplate code for you.
I'd be interested in, that.
Yeah, me too. Sounds interesting to me as well. Anybody would be bored by that, but I think with 4 votes, I saw Rinke nodding, so I think we already have a potential majority decision. So we need one more person to commit.
Yeah, let's do the token contract.
Thank you. If anybody feels forced or forced out, you can always flame me later. I'm very receptive to destructive and constructive feedback. So whatever makes you happy, just throw it at us. But I'd like to hear about that too. So unless somebody actually says I'm vetoing, I'd suggest we start with that now.
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. Awesome.
I'll be brief. I'm going to share my screen now. Okay, this is CryptoFex. This is the main contract, or the main body of code that I'm talking about. I'm working on a project called CoinFaucet. The idea of a CoinFaucet is it's a Raspberry Pi that sits in a room somewhere, and it detects your phone when you walk in the room. It uses Bluetooth to communicate with your phone, and once an hour it will drop a coin onto your phone. And you could imagine this is in like a bar, and the bar is going to drop beer tokens onto your phone. It gives you a free beer. And so the idea is, if people know that, if they know this thing is dropping beer tokens once an hour, they'll hang out longer just to possibly get a free beer. So that's the use case, and so this is the contract. You've got this CoinFaucet. Because it's not just about bars, it's about, well, we could say more than one bar. So you could have beer tokens that are good for different bars, or you could have other kinds of coins that other businesses would be creating. So I have this idea of a coin registry where I would, every new coin that gets created gets added to this registry. This is not a best case or a best practice for Rholang, because it essentially is a centralized list of coins, and that just tends to be a bit of we lose our concurrency benefit when we do stuff like that. But I added it anyway. We'll have to discuss that later. These are the main 2 pieces that I've added for this, CoinFaucet and the coin registry. Down below, I've got the blessed contracts of non-negative number, make mint, and basic wallet. These are the contracts that are going to make it out to mainnet, and I've only done minor modifications to any of them. Basic wallet wants to use public key, private key to secure it. So I created another kind of wallet I call a hash wallet. This is a one-time use wallet. So it's secured using a salted hash. If you know the salt, you can unlock it and retrieve all the value in it. And I use that as part of the CoinFaucet. So I create these one-time use wallets with an award in it, and then using Bluetooth, I send the salt to the phone that I'm giving the coin to. So now that phone has the salt that will unlock this one-time use wallet. So that's the idea here. It's using the major mechanics for make mint and basic wallet and purses, but it's also using this one-time use wallet idea. So
Chris,
also,
the idea is when my phone gets this hash wallet, like the app automatically uses the salt to take the coin out of the hash wallet and put it into the basic wallet.
that's right.
Okay, cool.
So I'm also using some features that are new to 0.7. I'm using the registry to register these coin awards. So or these one-time use wallets. So as the Raspberry Pi is creating these one-time use wallets, it's storing them in the registry, and it's just waiting for somebody to come along and retrieve them later. So this is my attempt to move away from the centralized list idea. I haven't completely made this migration, but this is the proper way to do registries from now on, I would say. So just to like review what I was doing before, this coin registry had this centralized list of all the coins. And so that's the wrong way to do it.
Hey, Chris, Phil's asking in chat, isn't the hash wallet vulnerable to front running? I'm not totally sure what that attack is. Can anyone?
100%.
Okay.
Well, the idea is the Raspberry Pi is going to send the salt over Bluetooth to it's going to attempt to send it to one phone in the room. But if you're sniffing RF signals, you can snag it. You can see that somebody just got a salt value over Bluetooth, and you can go very quickly submit a transaction and redeem it yourself. So this is not at all, proper security. This is kind of like I'm constrained by how much data I can send over Bluetooth, and I'm trying to make it to where I don't have to do an enormous amount of key management. But there's certainly more secure ways to do this. So
Gotcha.
this was just, maybe this is just a prototype. I'm cutting a lot of corners and just trying to prove some bit of functionality. And maybe Hash Wallet has a better use somewhere.
Yeah, gotcha. But I was actually pointing towards that once the deploys will get gossiped also on the P2P network, it is like that everyone can see this the salt and can grab it before it is actually included into the block.
Every argument that you put on your channel, it's easy to saw by other people. It's like you just look on the airspace and you know everything.
I see what you're saying. So So I think we know how a coin registry is going to work. Let me go look at that. So when you create one of these hash wallets, you just pass in the salted hash. You don't pass in the salt. So the salt is off chain all the time. And you'll see that there's a way to unlock it. If you can send the salt in on a transaction that turns into the salted hash, then it gets unlocked. So let's just dig into it a little bit.
Yeah, so just what I meant is similar to when this hash wallet would be on the Ethereum network, you would send a transaction, and this transaction is not immediately into a block, but it's just in the mempool of the transactions. And everyone in the network can actually see this kind of salt and actually build or create a transaction for themselves that actually has the same salt, but basically could also put a higher, for example, put a higher gas price in there, or even if it's a miner, obviously he can just include it for itself. So that's the point I was hinting towards. That's not a very secure pattern.
Yeah. Okay. I think I understand what you're saying. Can I just reiterate the difference between the salted hash, which is the hash digest, it's the end result, and the salt that you would use to create that end result. There's the difference between the two. This salted hash is the end result. So I'm not telling you how to create the end result. I'm just saying, hey, could you make a wallet that has to, if it's going to be unlocked, it somehow has to create this end result hash. And and that can get stored on the blockchain. And if anybody wants to try and unlock it, they could just brute force it. They could submit tons and tons of transactions with salts, various salts, to try and generate this end result hash. That's something they could totally do. But let's look at, okay, so I'm just going to dig into this a little bit. Because it's largely the same mechanics that Basic Wallet uses, but it's using this idea of salting and hashes. It's essentially like a password. So you've got this, what hash did they use, stuff up top. So we could use any of the hashes that are available. So once we've got that, we've got a check hash function, which is going to actually run that hash, and you need to supply a salt in order to get it to do the hash check based on the idea for the coin, the ID for the coin, and the salt that you just provided. And it will run the hash, and if the hash out is equal to the salted hash that was used in the very beginning to create this whole thing, the hash that it computes on chain using the salt you just passed in the transaction matches the salted hash that was passed in the beginning, and you get to unlock the wallet. So that's the idea. When somebody wants to run the transfer function, they have to pass in a salt, or when they want to run the transfer transaction, they have to pass in a salt, which gets run through the check hash function, and if it checks out, then the transfer completes. That's the idea. Does that answer your question?
I was I was aware of that concept, but what I meant was that in the moment where you want to transfer your tokens out because you got the salt in the bar, and the moment you create a transaction or you deploy in our chain, and at some point in the release step, this will also be gossiped around in the peer-to-peer network. And it is not included into a block at that point, but every validator can then pick up this transaction and look for a transfer method and sees the salt and creates a deploy by themselves, which they propose into a block.
Got it. I see what you're saying. So it's when somebody tries to do a legitimate redemption, they could, if they don't clear that transaction quick enough, then they can get front run. You know, I haven't quite worked it all out yet as far as how this is going to be implemented, but I have larger issues like the cost of operating the solution. Like, why would somebody that walked into the bar want to maintain an active rev balance so that they can play this game? Or how am I going to encourage them to do that in the first place? So then it turns into, well, maybe the CoinFaucet is maintaining that balance, and it's the CoinFaucet that has to, submit and pay for those transactions itself. So the game to the user is totally free, and there is a cost of operating one of these CoinFaucets to the business owner. I have to figure that out, but maybe that helps with the front running situation. I don't know.
Yeah. So if you would just have kind of this interaction between between those who want to redeem and the bar owner, so the people in the bar and the bar owner, into a local network, and then later the bar owner once per day just updates the balances on the network or whatsoever, then obviously it is not vulnerable to front running.
Yeah. Two things. One is that I don't know if there's been information really released yet about what costs can be expected to run the network. But another thought would be perhaps you can find a way of bundling this transaction which the user is interested in with other transactions, and in that way incentivize them to promote it on their own.
Yeah. I would need well, how would that work? I can see that if the per transaction cost was lower, that would incentivize, but it's all the extra steps, I guess. It's all the extra things the end user would have to do to be the person paying. That's the thing I'm concerned about. Like if I make it just slightly more difficult, how many people would I lose? Versus if I make it zero difficulty, it's a website you go to in your phone web browser, and your web browser knows how to talk Bluetooth, and it's like there's no setup and it just works. I feel like, okay, then I can get everybody. I can get everybody to play this thing, something like that. And if I cover the cost internally to the app, well, that's even more people I can get on it. This may be a larger discussion on like how to build applications that scale when there is a cost of transaction. But
I'm having a question, Chris, if I may. Maybe somebody else was. This is an interesting thing, but like, would it be possible to build something like this on Ethereum, or are there like very special things that allows to do this on Archain? Because I think that's also in general like a dialogue which we need. Like you need to convince people that that you can do things on Archain which otherwise can't. But would this be an example of something that you cannot do on Ethereum, or do you think it would be possible also on other blockchain?
Love that question.
By saying that Cosmos is coming out very soon, so whatever those reasons are, really shouldn't focus on efficiency or resource costs if possible, and much more on the expressivity of Rholang. I think to be a strong argument.
I love this question, and every time I tell people about this CoinFaucet idea, I say this is a proof of concept that we're gonna install in the bar next door to our office. But the idea is that at the top of the hour, it's dropping one token. It's running a transaction. At the top of the hour, it's running one transaction. If we're right, and this idea is really cool, and everybody in Tampa Bay, where I live, all the bars at least, want to do this, at the top of the hour, we may have to clear 1,000 transactions in that 1 second, just because they all are dropping a token at their respective bar. And then we extrapolate that. If this goes nationwide, if there's bars all around the nation, we might need to clear 500,000 transactions in that 1 second at the top of the hour. And if it wasn't just bars, if it was any number of other businesses, I guess what I'm saying is this application by itself demands on some interval a very high transaction throughput. I think that means that it's a good fit for our chain, or at least it's going to push our chain to some limit. If I may, I did want to keep it brief, but I wanted to say that there is an integration test here that kind of walks through the whole flow of creating the coin registry, creating the mint for new beer tokens, then creating the faucet, and putting the mint inside the faucet. And then the faucet has a wallet with a hash that's protecting it. I used hash wallets in this integration test. I didn't use the basic wallet because I didn't have a way to do all the signing and all that stuff. But that's my next step. So the faucet has a wallet, the phone would have a wallet, and then the faucet's going to create a coin award that it's trying to drop onto the phone. So that's protected by a hash also. And then, so this is the integration test, and it runs through the whole process of creating the registry and then creating the faucet. Or let me step back. Creates the registry, and then the registry is going to create the beer token, create coin, and it gets back a mint. And so then it says, faucet, here's the mint I want you to use when you create awards that you want to drop. So now I've got a faucet, and then I'm going to say, make me a wallet that's protected by a hash. And so you can see here what I'm doing is I'm hashing the ID for the token and then a salt, ABC. And I get that hash back, and then I create a wallet that's protected by that hash. This is the faucet wallet, and its salt, its secret password is ABC. So the faucet wallet is protected by a hash that has a salt with ABC. So now I've got my faucet wallet. Well, now I'm going to make a phone wallet. So I do the same thing, but the phone's wallet is protected by the salt XYZ. And so now I've got, so then I go create that wallet for the phone. And I use that salted hash. So now I've got a phone wallet. I've got a faucet wallet and a phone wallet. So now I'm going to make a coin award that I want to drop onto the phone from the faucet. Its salt is 123. So then I create the coin award hash, and then I transfer some funds. This is using the standard purse transfer function, or actually wallet is the wallet transfer function. So from the faucet wallet, I'm going to run the transfer function. I'm going to pass in the salt that I needed to unlock that wallet, and I'm going to send it into the coin award purse. I want to send 5 tokens into the coin award purse. So now I've got this award purse that's got 5 tokens in it. And so then I tell the faucet, well, go ahead and create a new coin award. Use that purse. So a purse sits inside a wallet. And in this situation, we're doing a hash wallet. So the wallet is locked with a hash. So I tell the faucet, use that purse I just made to make a new coin award and lock it with this hash. And when you're done, I want the phone wallet to redeem that coin award. So phone wallet, redeem the coin award that was locked with this hash, and here was the salt that unlocks it. And then I just have this use utility function called list balances. So I'm using CryptoFacts. I haven't updated it recently, but this bottom left corner is where I'm running this code, or where I'm running rnode 0.7.1. CryptoFacts is the run function doesn't work anymore for 0.7.1. They're going to update it or something soon, I'm sure. So I'm using deploy. And what that means is when I run eval, it sends this Rholang code over to my running node in the background. And that does work. So let's expand that out. Expand this out a little bit. So I'm going to kill this node and restart it.
Chris, in the meantime, I've got a question. What part of the code is pushed into the replayable space, and what's just for what stays only on the node of the bar owner?
Good question. I really didn't do any segmenting of the code, and so my assumption is it all goes on the tuple space. When I look at the output, it's the whole wallet contract and all the. I'm not answering your question correctly. I could say that the things I know that I'm writing explicitly and storing out there are things like this coin registry, a list of all the coins. In the CoinFaucet, I have a list or a map of all the coin awards. So those two things are going out to the tuples. In the registry, I'm storing a mapping between salted hash and an ID where a coin award wallet is sitting. So I can always say, when somebody wants to redeem their, when somebody wants to redeem a coin award, I'm trying to get to that code just to show you what I mean. I think I did a bad thing. I think I started a very heavy process on accident.
So regarding the hashing, is that done locally or is that sent out as the function on the network and then every node is doing the hashing? Because otherwise the kind of password will be there in ClearChecks.
Right, the hashing would be done locally, but like off-chain. So that's maybe something I need to speak to also. I haven't quite figured out how to do that in Node.js. There's a Node.js front end for this as a web application, and I'm trying to figure out how to generate these hashes in Node.js. And I've got any number of examples in the Scala code of how it's turning, you know, you can see I've got a list here that it runs, and then it runs the hash function. So there's some Scala code that talks about how it's doing that, and maybe more importantly, how it's turning it into protocol buffers, and then serializing that, and turning it into hex. But I haven't quite figured it all out yet. So to do. I got to figure out how to compute these hashes off-chain so I can pass them in. I'm so sorry, guys. I've got my computer started something on accident. So I'm going to try and kill it.
Just a service reminder, we have 15 minutes left. I actually wouldn't mind staying on topic. I wouldn't mind staying on topic.
Yeah, I am going to have to do something drastic, I think. Is locking up right now. I don't know if you can hear me, but I need to kill the process before I can really show you guys anything.
I have a feeling that my internet connection is quite unstable. I get warnings all the time. So if I sound chopped up, just send me a message or just tell me that it's kind of bad. Well, given the time we have left, we can either open another small topic or actually stay on topic here right now. What's the sentiment?
You came through very clear for me. It's actually on Chris's line that we're getting the disruption.
Small topic here right now. What's the line that we're getting?
Is everyone else still here?
I am here, but that was I haven't heard anything for a minute, so I only heard you.
Yeah, same from my side.
Yeah, I hear everybody, only Chris, I think.
All right.
Well, since we seem to, so what are we going to do in the next 15 or whatever? Yeah, 13 minutes. I mean, we can go further on this topic, but I don't think that's gonna work if Chris is kind of offline-ish. So I'd say, and Josh already left, so I guess we lost the R-sign topic. So we might either go into looking at some of the exploits again, or we might actually go into looking deeper into the topic that Rinke proposed, or we might do something completely different that we haven't talked about yet. I mean, I've been typing along, so we have a kind of okay transcript. So it's really up to the community right now.
What was Rinke's topic?
That was the Rinke's. I mean, maybe you just introduce it. I think you can do it better in a few words.
I think you mean the web browser, right? To read which web browser and what's happening on the node.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, it sounded to me like in general how to make your node more usable beyond the command line, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Is that something we can fit into 10 minutes?
Well, the thing is, do we have an example or anything that's runnable that we could look at to get an, I think, what can we do in 10 minutes? We can get a general feeling and direction in how we should approach this problem if we ever run into it in our work. Anybody got something?
I have only links. I don't. I didn't do anything on that. I only use AirChain as from our backend. So I have examples how to do that from Python, for example.
So sorry about that, guys. My computer, I had to restart.
Well, we're glad to have you back. Are you on track to pick up where you left off? Because we were discussing if we should just abandon you and, you know, do other stuff.
Yep. Yeah, I can continue. Again, apologies. So I'm going to share my screen and start where I left off.
Excellent. Excellent.
Okay. So what we need to do is I need to start my R node instance. So I'm going to run a background R node. And then I'm going to
By the way, Chris, just wanted to say that I love the idea of create tokens coming out of Faucet. So.
Awesome. I hope it takes off. I hope it is viral or something. And it's a great use for a lot of the features that we need to demonstrate. So it's really a good test bed for me to just continue working on, continuously as new versions come out. I'm just trying to get my command to start a node the right way. Here we go. Okay, so the node is starting now. Now let's get back to CryptoFX once this starts. So you can see this is our chain node 0.7.1. It's listening. So let's go ahead and deploy this. So what it's going to do is it's going to deploy all the stuff we know about, all these coin registry, CoinFaucet, all this stuff. as well as all the blessed contracts like Make Mint, Basic Wallet, and Hash Wallet. But it's also going to run this integration test. So we'll see some output. So I can run the eval. It will send that in. And so when we go back over here, we look at our terminal, we see a bunch of output, all these debugging messages. So just, it can kind of be out of order sometimes, but anyway, it creates the registry, creates a coin, creates the faucet with the new coin that it just made. Then it makes some wallets that are protected by hashes. So here's the faucet wallet hash, here's the phone wallet hash, and here's the award hash. So then it's transferring some value from one wallet to another. The starting balances. It had nothing in, or it had nothing in the phone wallet and had 1,000 in the faucet wallet. So it goes ahead and creates that award, and then the phone is gonna come along and redeem the award. So it successfully completes the redemption, and you can see that the faucet wallet has 0, or has 995. This one, I got to figure out why if it's because it's out of order or why it doesn't show 5 in the phone. But whatever. That's the last thing I'm working on to show that the redeem is successful on the other side. The downside I've found of running integration tests in your Rholang is that it puts it all out of order, and so you can't predictably say, a serial process, how you want it to happen. So I may just say this is good enough for me to just move over to the Node.js side and add in all the code that's going to run these functions in a more serial form. So I guess
the test library does allow you to serialize the test. So that might be useful for you.
I couldn't hear you. Could you say that again?
The test set allows you to serialize tests. And whether like do things in order and fourth order isn't overly about those.
Christian, there's a lot of background noise coming from you. Could you type that up and post it in the chat? Chris, have you posted your code anywhere? If you're looking for feedback or just curious bystanders.
Yeah, I have. Let me pull it up real quick. So this is going to be out on GitHub. And actually, I think it's on my personal. I have the main repo is with the company that I work with called Block Spaces, but I forked it and I'm putting all my small changes here under my personal. So it's under CryptoCoder. I'll put this link in the chat. But this is the CoinFaucet project, and so it's our chain making a physical coin faucet on transferring coins from a Raspberry Pi to cell phones using Bluetooth Low Energy. So I've got a couple folders here. Raspberry Pi Archain is the build process for building Archain on a Raspberry Pi, and then the Rholang is under Raspberry Pi web app because there's going to be a web app on the Raspberry Pi. And then you'll see this CoinFaucet row is all the code here for the stuff we're looking at today.
Right, looking awesome. We have a few minutes left, and I think what I'd like to do is, because that's also one of the requests I received from Dan, to be able to kind of define what topics will be discussed at least one day before the next call. So what I'd like to kind of hear from all the people participating in the call now is what they envision to be a meaningful lead topic for next week. And this is not like set in stone what we kind of come up here with today, but it's a strong indicator of what would have the most interest. I mean, I would personally like to go into our sign deeper and actually have Dan on the call. The sooner he knows that, the better he can plan for it. And I thought that there were people here that also were interested in learning about that. So I'm kind of proposing that topic, plus asking for suggestions from everybody else who'd like to propose a topic for next week.
I think the question of what is a token is pretty important in the context of kind of just conventional, foundational, but also the difference between a token in something like Ethereum and something like
Mm-hmm.
And then also perhaps to pick up the question that we sort of touched on last week around what is the interface around Archain look like? How do you define the boundary? And the sort of touching point in that is that there's no native concept of an agent that is an external kind of entity natively in Archain as there is in Ethereum. And those are the two really fundamental questions that I think need to be addressed before we have any reasonable idea of what a wall would look like.
Yeah, the agent question sounds also like something very valuable to talk about. But the way I understand it, it would be kind of an exploratory conversation, or do we have anyone who actually has enough insight into kind of how an implementation could look like? Would that be you, or? Because I don't have the knowledge to lead the conversation.
An exploratory conversation to try to bring as many perspectives together.
Which would obviously benefit from having as many kind of perspectives in the call as possible. So I guess Dan's perspective would be nice, Josh's as well. Maybe somebody from Powerflex, though I'm not sure if they would be willing or able to actually participate given the time of day. All right. Yeah, I've written it down. I'll definitely pursue that in the Discord. Anybody else? Suggestions? Chris, I guess you'll be loving the CoinFaucet again.
Yeah, well, I'm working on the next leg of it, which is Archain API, like Joshi said, is built to be a middleware, an API service that sits in front of our node, but sits behind a front-end web application. And so I'm repackaging major parts of Archain API and major parts of RSign into an NPM package so that people can build Node.js web applications, their own Node.js web application. And so that's actually what I'm working on today. Now that I've got the Rholang where I want it to be, I'm going to start using this very early version of the NPM package to wire everything up. It already does the major mechanics of sending transactions in and listening on channels for responses. And this is largely work done by Dan and Joshi, so major hat tip to them. I'd like to add in the functions for hashing the way that Rholang wants to do hashing. So hashing in Node.js the way that Rholang wants to do hashing. And the piece that I'd be pulling out of RSign is the key management and the signing. So I'd like to talk about that in a future conversation because I feel like it really is going to enable us to build a lot more.
Okay, thanks. Great stuff.
So maybe not the next week, but in 2 weeks, I can talk about same things, but from Python, because we already have most of these things. I'm try really hard to update everything on our GitHub, because most of the coding is done on our private repo. And if I have extra time, I'm moving things from our repo to the public repo. So most of the time it's our current state, but and listening and running contracts from Python are already done in our repo, so it works.
Okay, interesting stuff. Chris, I had a question. So you said you would be taking elements from the Archain API and kind of package it all up. Are you kind of should I understand it as a second implementation, kind of a second API that you're building specifically for the CoinFaucet project, or are you using the Archon API? Because I'm not sure I got you right.
I'm repackaging it as a new project. It's going to be an NPM package that's going to borrow heavily, 98% from Archain API and Arsign. Just taking code from both of them and putting it into an NPM package that we'll put out on NPM.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Alrighty, right. We're very close to the end. Oh, we're over actually. Phil, Patrick, Christian, Rinke, anything? Any feedback as well? I mean, this is kind of the end.
Not from my side, I'm still just an observer.
Yeah, just an observer. Yeah, the G-man.
I mean, the session was great, and I mean, and beforehand we discussed, okay, we make it like we talk about one topic and have an open discussion. I would like to hear some feedback if we want to continue with it, but I think it was implicitly implemented already in the answers. Or
yeah, I mean, the problem I'm seeing is we have a kind of huge topic congestion, so we will obviously run into this problem in the future as well, where the rate at which new topics creep in will be higher in the way we solve matters. So we will, at some point, I already discussed this with Dan, have to do breakout sessions for specific long-standing topics, but it'll have to be a work in progress. We'll have to find out as we go along when will be the right point to do that. Right. So if there's nothing else, yeah, sorry?
Thanks for hosting.
No problem. What I don't know, since I didn't start the session, who's going to get the recording and how we're going to get the link. Who knows that?
Tim gave me host control, but when my computer crashed, I don't know if that transferred to somebody else.
How the hell do I find that out?
I get some notification that I am the host, but I don't know what this means and where I should looking for anything. So,
well,
there's probably like
my understanding is if you have a
there's probably like a file on Chris's computer for like part of the way, and then a file on Matoy's for like the other little bit. So maybe you can like stitch them together or something. I don't know.
Well, nobody worry about that. I'll just find out what Zoom, the application, does. In this case, I'm still thinking it's recorded centrally at their server infrastructure, so it should be there because that's what makes sense from their point of view. But maybe I'm wrong about that. Once I know, I'll send. Well, what's the best communication channel actually? I would prefer to do this on the Colab Discord. Who is on the Colab Discord? Mateusz, are you on it?
I don't think so. I most of the time forget about Discord at all. So
yeah, I noticed.
Sorry.
No problem. If it's only outliers, I can send emails to those people directly. Everybody else except for Phil should be on the Colab. But yeah, I have your emails anyway, so I'll take a screenshot now, and then I'll just know who to talk to anyway. All right, I won't be boring you anymore. Next week, same time, and I will be sending probably Monday, Tuesday proposals for topics, and on Wednesday we should kind of have a very clear understanding what's going to happen on Thursday. That's the schedule I'm looking for.
Fantastic. Thank you,
Excellent.
guys.
Thanks for all the presentations.
Thanks.
Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.